A small French town. The inhabitants held tightly to their traditions until one day a peculiar wind blew in from the north. The doors to the church swung open during the service. Two people in red capes knocked on an old lady's house and declared their desire to rent a house. The girl and her daughter. The girl likes the town, loves her mother and listening to stories from her mother. During the cleaning, Count Renaud comes to them and invites them to church with the other residents of the town, but the girl does not go to church. Count Renaud is surprised that she has rented the premises as a cafe, believing it to be a diner, although Lent is coming up. The girl says she is preparing a surprise for everyone. The Count studied history and ran the life of the town, setting an example for everyone. He was disciplined and strict. Count Renaud asked his secretary Caroline about her mother, since she was the one who rented Vian the room from the diner. Vian and her daughter continue to tidy up the room. She does everything herself, every nail and every plank she nails with her own hands. Little by little, candy appears on the racks, and soon there is a plaque with a suggestive inscription near the entrance. Vian Rocher invites Caroline and her son over and treats them to hot chocolate, but Caroline refuses and forbids her son to touch the mug at the same time. At this time, a woman comes to them. Vian's daughter unwraps the pattern plate and asks what she sees. The woman tells about the image she sees and Vian gives her a matching sweet. The customer enthuses. Anouk unwraps the plate again and asks Caroline's son what he sees. The boy tells a gloomy picture and the girl gives him a bitter chocolate just like his fantasy, but Caroline says it will have to wait because of Lent. The woman asks for a box of chili candy and Vian passes the cookies to her husband to arouse his passion, but she does not give them to her husband. Luc, Caroline's son, looks out the window in the evening and his nose is bleeding. The woman's husband finds the cookies Vian passed on the floor and eats them all in a gulp. He approaches his wife and looks at her with amorous eyes, after which they make love. Count Renaud is working in his study. A servant brings him food, but he refrains, citing the great fast. As soon as she leaves, however, he picks up a jar of jam and sniffs out the contents. Josephine Muscat enters Vian's store, but she has no money. Vian offers her the sweet, but she goes home. Women pass by the store and look at the chocolate on the counter. Guillaume Blaireau also passes by and his dog runs up to the feet of one of the women. The ladies leave and Guillaume's dog runs into Vian's candy store. The girl gives him a goodie and talks to the man. She wants to pick out a sweet for him to give to the lady he likes, but the man says that the woman is wearing mourning for her husband, who died in the war. And that would be alright, but it's the war of 1917. There's nothing Vian can do about it. Count Renaud comes to the beauty parlor and is again questioned about his wife, who is gone on a long vacation. The Count voices his dissatisfaction with the opening of the chocolatier on the eve of Lent, managing to speak out about the girl herself. Count Renaud comes to the young preacher and gives his sermon, but with corrections. He asks the preacher to stop by the chocolate shop, because you have to know your enemy. At this time, a grumpy woman walks in on Vian, but she finds a way to approach her and pours her hot chocolate with chili peppers. She is surprised by the unusual combination and takes a sip. The old woman is shocked by the taste and smiles. There is a fight at school and the girl stands up for the victim, for which she is punished. The boy asks Anouk about his father, or rather about his absence, but the girl says there is a father, though she doesn't know where he is or who he is. Armand, visiting Vian, manages to open up and tell her about her and Caroline's problems, while also talking about her son. Caroline controls his every move since her husband's death. The boy is not even allowed to go to the bathroom without her. Vian and Anouk arrive at the inn and the girl personally hands Josephine her deliciousness. The woman behaves very strangely. She comes to admire the sweetness, but says that the mayor slandered her by calling her vicious. This hurts Vian. One day the girl is walking down the street and sees Luc. He is busy drawing, as always. The girl asks him to paint her portrait and the boy agrees, but when she invites him into her shop, Luc confesses that he can't because the mayor has forbidden all the inhabitants to come near the chocolate shop. Vian can't stand it and goes to Count Renaud, asking him to calm down and leave her alone, but he promises that she will leave as soon as Easter arrives. Josephine is already waiting for the girl outside the chocolate shop. She goes inside and makes a confession. She says she is considered crazy for standing out and behaving differently than the others. Vian calms her down and tells her it's fixable. Josephine says she has the best chocolate. Before going to bed, Anouk asks her mother to tell her about her grandfather, who was a pharmacist. He volunteered to be one of the first to try the chili pepper cocoa. That was also when he saw Chits for the first time and compromised the rules of Christian morality by making love to her. She was not the best choice, but they were happy for a while, until a wise north wind decided otherwise, for they were nomads. Vian and her mother Chits wandered just as she and Anouka did and carried the recipe for cocoa around the world, following the north wind. One day, Vian invites Armand and Luc to paint her portrait. Armand gives the boy a collection of unusual poetry. Guillaume Blaireau comes to confession to the young priest and speaks of his sins, telling him in passing what he has begun to think of that grieving woman. The priest did not encourage him at all, but rather made him recite prayers. Luc fled before he could paint a portrait, but everyone was for that outcome. Night fell, and when Vian and Anouk were already asleep, there began to be a heavy pounding on the door. The girl opened the door and saw Josephine. She packed her bags and escaped from her drunkard husband, who managed to hit her. It is a feat of a lifetime and Vian supports her in it by getting her a job in her shop. Her husband himself has already managed to complain to Count Renaud. The strangest and most frightening thing is that he is more afraid for his own reputation than for his wife. Vian teaches Josephine the art of candy making, but Renaud comes to her and asks about Josephine's disappearance. Vian summons the girl and shows her the wound on her head. Renaud is shocked and takes her husband to confession. The young priest teaches the drunk a lesson in morality along with the rest of the children, and Renaud teaches Josephine's husband about life. The days fly by quickly, and Renaud is still teaching Serge to be a gentleman, while the chocolate shop still exists and all sorts of people come into it. Guillaume still gives chocolate shells to his sweetheart, and Luc falls in love with chocolate. Everyone repents to their father about the chocolate, which evokes great emotion in them. Count Renaud realized that he was losing power over the city. He had no idea that one problem would come to him by water one day. Anouk comes running to Vian and tells her that pirates have come to town. They handed out sweets to the boys, presenting them as very friendly. Only one man was sitting in the distance, playing his guitar. Anouk thought it was the captain and ran to him. Vian ran after her and Roux began apologizing for everything, calling himself and his friends scum of society and river rats. Vian says she doesn't think he's like that. Guy asks what they profess to be, to which Anouk answers briefly, chocolate. The pirate brags about the loot and Vian buys the stones from him right in front of Renaud. Roux warns the girl that if they become friends, she will make enemies, but she is not the least bit frightened. One day Serge arrives at Josephine's house in a suit and with flowers. They have both changed a great deal, and the man asks her to forgive him for everything, telling her how he is reformed. Serge asks her to accept his changes and holds out a bouquet to her. She accepts the apology and he says things will be different, but Josephine doesn't believe those words and leaves. Serge says that they are betrothed before the sight of God and Josephine says that in that case, God is blind. The villagers organize a meeting where they discuss the problem of the nomads, saying that they cannot drive them away, but they can let them know that they are unwanted guests. At night, a drunken sergeant breaks into Vian and Josephine's house and they have to confront the drunk. He pounces on Vian and strangles her with both hands, but Josephine knocks him out with a frying pan. The unconscious body is placed near the church. Luc goes into the chocolate shop to paint again, but Caroline cancels her haircut and comes in to get her son. She sees that he's having fun, but she also tells the truth about her mother. She has diabetes and has to take insulin shots. Caroline keeps wanting to put her in a nursing home. The villagers distribute a flyer that says boycott immorality. This means that they will no longer serve docked pirates. The girl next to Roux can't even get a soda. Vian sees them and invites them inside the chocolate shop. Roux is surprised that they are not boycotting against them. Vian offers Roux a sweet, saying it is his favorite, but he says it is not his favorite sweet, much to the girl's surprise. And before saying goodbye, Roux says he will help put up the glass that Serge broke the day before. The news reaches Renaud and he gets mad, thinking that the girl is mocking them. Roux now works in the chocolate shop, there are more people now and they are having more fun. Renaud convinces the priest to change the confession, and now it says that chocolate is the devil's work. People are wary of the shop and Vian. Anouk can't even stand it and throws a tantrum because they are not at all like everyone else. Her mother calms her down, but what can she do? She is a child. Vian speaks to Armand and she proposes to make a party for her 70th birthday. Vian goes to Roux and hears a song, she remembers her mother singing it to her. She invites the boy to the party and gives him the candy again, thinking it will certainly be his favorite, but again she misses it. It's not his favorite candy. The girls get ready for the party and make different dishes. Various people from the town come to the party. They are, of course, very surprised by Roux's presence and afraid that Renaud will find out everything, but it turns out that he is not invited. Luc runs away from home and arrives at the party to give his grandmother a portrait. Vian invites everyone to the chocolate party on Sunday, and also informs them that Roux has dessert on the boat. Everyone goes to the boat and has fun with the pirates while Roux accompanies them on the guitar. Caroline keeps looking and can't find her son, but still goes to the loud noises and sees everyone having fun. She is unable to disturb the party and walks back out, not deciding to interfere. Serge knocks on the door to Count Renaud and shows him what is going on. Renaud comes in shock and says that action is required. Roux takes Vian aside, relieving her of her work, and asks her to dance. She struggles but relaxes and plunges into a gentle dance to the accompaniment of the pirates. Armand is about to leave and Vian gives her one last hug. Luke walks the tired grandmother out. Vian puts Josephine and Anouk to bed, and she goes on the boat with Rue. They argue about home, for they each have their own, and they are both nomadic. Rue would like to stay somewhere, but the cost is too high. He asks the girl about Anouk, and Vian remembers that her daughter is having a hard time with their wanderings. Rue soothes her with a kiss and they make love on the boat. At the same time, some of the villagers set fire to the pirate boats. Rue wakes Vian and they run to put out the fire. Everyone escapes, but where is Anouk? Vian notices the fire and swims to the burning place. Rue swims after her and stops the girl as the building behind them explodes with the roars of fire. He takes her to the shore and calms her down. Suddenly Anouk and Josephine appear. Vian hugs her and kisses her, glad that nothing happened. Luke finishes the dishes and notices that grandmother is dead. As Vian and Anouk try to sleep, Rue comes to them and tries to talk about what happened. Vian thinks he wants to say goodbye, but Rue says that by losing the boat, he lost only a means of transportation. Luke goes to his mother, who is fixing a bicycle for her son, and talks about his grandmother. The father at the funeral says that Armand died of gluttony and Vian leaves the cemetery. She returns home and packs her things. She considers leaving. Josephine runs into the house and cries for her to stop. The woman becomes upset and leaves the room without disturbing Vian. Caroline comes to Count Renaud and expresses sympathy for his wife, hinting that she knows about her leaving. Josephine runs up to Caroline in the street and asks her for a word. Serge comes to Renaud at night and apologizes for the fire he set. Count Renaud had no idea at all that his words about the measures would be taken so personally. Count Renaud chases Serge out of the village. Vian asks her daughter to wear a red cape, but because the girl is capricious, the suitcase opens and everything crashes. The girl hears some sounds from below. It's the townspeople, toiling in the kitchen and making chocolate. Even Caroline and her son. Josephine asks how well she grated the almonds. Count Renaud and the young father prepare for Easter. Renaud corrects the father's speech and contributes his words. Seeing that Caroline has also come to the shop, he repents before the icons, saying that his suffering is nothing, and then looks at the dagger in his hands, believing that this is the way out. He sneaks into the chocolate shop with a knife and breaks the most beautiful chocolate crafts, then accidentally tastes it. He gorges himself on the chocolate and cries while lying in the wreckage of candy. A young patron walks by and catches him asleep right on the store counter. Vian wakes Count Renaud up and gives him a special drink. Count Renaud did not have time to write a sermon, but Father Henri said it sincerely, and so the parishioners felt new feelings. There was a feast of chocolate in the square, and a smile appeared on everyone's face, and the pirates showed their tricks. Even Count Renaud felt strangely relieved, though it took him another 6 months to invite Caroline to dinner. Josephine became the owner of her husband's cafe and gave it the name Armand. Only the north wind could not find peace. Vian heard its call, but she did not follow it, but decided to find peace in the village forever. The wind was left with nothing and flew on his way, and when summer came to the town, Rue appeared on the doorstep of the chocolate shop and said that his favorite sweet was hot chocolate.